All right, so once again, a very good afternoon and welcome everyone to the Entrepreneurship Conference.
So to officially kick off today's event, I'd like to welcome Kenneth Ho from BEAMSTART to the stage to share a little bit more about today's event. Kenneth?
Let's give him a round of applause.
Thank you. Good afternoon. You guys had your lunch? I hope you guys have. Thanks so much for being here today. I see many familiar faces in the crowd. Some of you guys I haven't seen since COVID. So it's great to be here with all of you. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for being here. And for those of you who bought a ticket, thank you so much. I know the tickets were not very cheap, but all this money that we collect allows us to continue running these conferences in the coming years. So this is the first time we're doing it in KL. We used to do this, the last time we did this conference was in Singapore, and then COVID hit, and then now we are restarting. So we didn't expect so many people to turn up. We actually sold out the tickets, and then some people came, and then we didn't have any more tickets, so we had to open it. But thank you so much for the overwhelming response. We really happy, So thanks so much, guys. Thanks. So we have a pretty packed day today. So I'm just going to quickly run through. I have about 10 minutes, and then we're going to start bringing up these VIP speakers who came all the way for the conference. So before that, really quick, there's a QR code. This is a WhatsApp group where we will send updates on the conference. So if you want to stay updated, do follow the group so that you can keep updated with what's going on around the hotel. I'm just going to leave it there for about 1 minute. Cool, and if you are not able to scan it, don't worry. There is a QR code outside as well where you can scan it as well. Is it clear? Can you hear me at the back? Cool. Okay, cool. There's a bunch of stuff happening at the same time here today. We've actually booked many halls in this hotel. So in this hall, which is the main hall, we will be having we have invited many different speakers who will be sharing their valuable insights. Some of them have run really successful businesses, and some are investors, and they will be speaking here in this main hall. Next door, we have a one-to-one speed pitching session with investors. We actually invited over 100 different investment companies. About 50 are participating next door. I hope they come. I think they should be coming. But basically, half of them are for startups, venture capital, angel investors. They are next door. And there are some which are fund of funds. So they are investors of funds like EPF or MEFCAP. They are somewhere around. But look for those guys with the red color tag. Red color tag. So they are investors. We have a hall downstairs, which is organized by our partner, Mole. Is Melly here? Where's Melly? Okay, anyone from Mole here? No one's here. Okay, so anyway, there is a hall downstairs. It's the Jade Hall on the ground floor, where we have sales and marketing topics, and a few experts have been invited to share at that hall as well. And there's also a speed networking session there, where it's like a structured networking session. So feel free to drop by and check it out, because they have planned a lot of stuff there as well, and I think it's pretty interesting. We have a lucky draw today as well. It will be in this hall, and the prize is an iPad. There's only one, but so to be eligible later, just drop your business card in the bowl at the registration counter. It will be there during the break time. So it's not there yet, but it will be there soon. So just drop your card there, and then we'll have a lucky draw at the end of the conference, which is just after the final session in this hall. And last but not least, we have a party at the end of the conference. So, we believe that you meet a lot of good people here, but, sometimes you want to hang out with them after the conference and have a meal or have a drink with them. So we have booked the entire rooftop of the hotel for the after party. And I hope it'll be a really great networking session after the conference ends as well. And I hope in the future more people will fly in for this, and hopefully some of you here would sponsor this event in the future, so we can keep doing this. Thanks a lot. Yeah. So that's it from me. And yeah, that's it from me. And I just want to say thank you so much for being here. We hope that we can continue doing this in the many years to come. And feel free to reach out to me if there's anything that you need. And I apologize in advance if there's any hiccups. We will do better next year. Feedback is always appreciated. Yeah. So thank you so much for coming today. And hope we have a great session ahead. Yeah, so the first panel session will be starting, and I'll pass the time back to the MCs. Thanks, guys. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Kenneth. Let's give him a round of applause as the event organizers. For everyone at the entrance, there are still some seats over here, this side. You may walk over to actually sit this side if you want to sit, to be more comfortable. I think you can sit in between as well. There are quite a number of seats around, so we hope you don't stand at the entrance or the exit over there. We'll give you about a minute to move in. For those who are not moving, we will assume you are comfortable standing. But this event will last till probably late evening.
Yes, that's right. All right. Also, gentle reminder that the investor matching that'll be happening next door over there will start at 2:30 p.m. Time check, it is 2:28 right now. So for those that have registered or maybe interested in it, you may head over there now.
All right. Without further ado, let's move on to our very first panel session for today, titled Starting Up New Beginnings in a Rapidly Changing World.
Yes, and let's welcome our speakers for this session. First up, we have Wong from OpenMinds Resources. Next, we have Jayson Poon from PayX. Next up, we also have Yienyee from EasyStore. And lastly, we have Liew from Curlec. We'll be glad to join you.
All right, our panel are here. Please give them a round of applause.
Okay, so let's start our panel session with our very esteemed guests. So today's topic is starting up new beginnings in a rapidly changing world. And I have 4 general questions for all of you today. And the first one is, do you believe now is a good time to start a new venture or startup, and why?
Hello. Hi, good afternoon everyone. My name is Yienyee, I'm from EasyStore. Prior to this, I started a startup for 7 years called Avada. I started in 2016. Well, the answer to your question is the best time to start is yesterday, right? So there is really no perfect timing. I think it's important to really test everything before you think it's perfect, before it's the right time. There's never a right time. So when I was running Avada, I guess the biggest curveball was COVID. Nobody expected it, and when it happened, we didn't know how long it was going to last. So the challenges will keep coming. There's no perfect timing. If you have an idea, you should test it now, test it today, and continue to iterate it as you go along.
Awesome, thank you, Yienyee. Maybe Zach?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Zach. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Curlec. We're Malaysian fintech companies in the online payment space. A couple of years ago, we were acquired by a company called Razorpay from India, which is the largest fintech company in India, and as part of their Southeast Asia expand, they took a majority stake in our business. To answer the question whether it's a good time to start a company at the moment, I think obviously, the classic answer is always, you should have started yesterday or whatever. But it's an interesting time to start a company at the moment. Particularly with a lot the AI stuff going on at the moment. As an early stage company, there is the ability now to launch something at a fraction of the cost that you could do so previously. So typically, if you're raising a seed round or a Series A round, majority of that money would be going into building a team, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But now, with very, 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 very small teams, you could potentially get a venture off the ground at a fraction of the cost, using various AI tools. And obviously, these things are improving, exponentially at the moment. So it's an interesting time. You have the ability to do things at a much lower cost and scale it much, much, much quicker. And also need less VC money, which is probably a good thing.
Awesome. Thank you, Zach.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jayson from PayX. We're part of Zendit. And we offer B2B solutions to majority of ASEAN country in the form of payment collections, in the form of financing. I think to answer your questions, I think align and agree. There's no better time than now. And I think to start entrepreneurship ventures, right, you cannot time the market. It's quite unimaginable if someone tell me today, oh, I'm not going to start a company today because the US Fed Reserve is holding the rates, or because there's a war going on in the Middle East, or closer to home because the ringgit to Sing dollar is hitting all-time low. So I'm not going to start a company, right? So I think it has always been solving the problem itself. And the problem is going to be there whether it's 1 month from now or a year from now if you don't solve it. So for me, it's never been about timing. Yeah.
Thank you, Jayson.
Hi everyone, my name is Jen. I've been an entrepreneur since the age of 17. I've been creating startups, 8 in total to be exact. At the current startup that I represent called OpenMinds, we are a MarTech consultancy firm based in Malaysia, Singapore, Hong Kong, and Shanghai, and been running for the past 12 years. So I am considered as an ancient fossil when it comes to startups as well to some extent. And that's why I can tell you that it's actually a very exciting time for startups today. Why I say that is because the resources that we have today is so significant compared to back then. Back then, we don't have conferences like that, networking sessions, business matching, pitching. Back then when we needed to really pitch for funds, we needed to literally call the investor, go to their office, submit something physical, pray and hope they email you back. The process was very tedious. Today, not only you can do that just by attending an event like that, getting information about even raising funds or joining incubator programs or accelerator programs in other countries has also become far more accessible. Market testing and launching a product has been the easiest so far, right? Now you have, even if you want to build a website or you want to launch an app, there are things you can tap on like no-code platforms. We can launch an app in just 30 minutes, an hour. You can distribute it using social media, get your initial pilot testing going. And if you are not tapping into this, I think now you should, because these are all the tools that we are equipped today to launch a startup.
Thank you so much, Jan Wong, and the rest of the panelists. So there are 4 amazing different perspectives given by everyone here today, but the final answer is always to start today, correct? Okay, thank you. So next question, what are some of the gaps that still exist and the opportunities in today's world? Maybe Zach?
Sorry, what's the question again?
What are some of the gaps that still exist and the opportunities in today's world?
I mean, the world's always full of opportunities. I mean, that's a very broad question, right? I'm obviously, I typically take a fintech or payments skew to it all. And I mean, if you take banking as an example or payments as an example, I'm sure as you would agree, there's still so much to be done. If we think about it as a consumer or SME or business owner, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, there's still a lot of products and services that you just can't do at a click of a button. You can't do seamlessly. And really, when we think about banking, the whole experience should be as easy as, for example, setting up a social media account. We can do stuff like that, instantaneously. Why can we not, set up a bank account or at the click of a button, set up payments, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, plenty of opportunities still. I know it's a shitty answer, but I mean, there's tons.
I guess like AI is AI, technology advancement will continue to grow, everything will be faster, better, but the reality is I feel that everything still needs a human touch, right? There are certain things that we cannot replace. So for example, when the messenger bots were a thing, right? So everyone was like, okay, we're going to wipe out customer service solutions. That is not true because everyone hates talking to a bot. Nobody wants to call a number or message something and get automated responses. The human touch still needs to be there. There's still a lot of services that cannot be replaced by technology. Technology can improve it, help it, maybe collect data, analyze, make the process more seamless and better. But to replace it with to replace a human to do the job, I think that's very challenging. And the opportunities lie in because you have to believe that people in different countries, in different markets are different. People are unique, markets are unique, and therefore the solution has to be unique. If you take a global approach as a solution to everything, it's not one size fits all, right? So for example, we talk about digitalization or equal opportunities. There is a lot of people, let's just talk about local home ground like in Malaysia. How many people still do not have an online bank account? The answer is a lot, right? So maybe we live in the metropolitan cities, we are in our own circle, in our own little bubble. But the reality is if we step out of it, there are so many more problems to be solved and who is addressing that? So there is the opportunity for new startups, new solution provider and so on.
I think much has been said already. That's 100% true, right? I think opportunities and problems are everywhere. But I think one important angle to also consider when it comes to what makes a good opportunity is whether there is a market that is willing to pay or subscribe to that service that you are offering. Because there are tons of problems out there, right? I think just getting here this morning to this venue, some of you have already some problems entering the parking, locating the place, or maybe even during the registration process. All of us are into startups, so maybe you have some ideas already. All these opportunities. But the question comes down to, will someone be willing to pay for that gap to be filled? Will they be willing to pay X amount of dollars for have that problem solved? Because let's take even for the bigger startups that we know of today, right? Those popular ones like Grab that all of us are familiar with now. We all know that's a real problem, right? Malaysians in the house, you will remember those days where taxis were incredibly difficult to find, so inconvenient that we operate at their time rather than them adhering to ours. Remember those days? Those of you nodding your head, we know your age right now as well, right? But if you remember those days, Grab became godsend. It was the app that is able to plug that gap, but we needed to pay for a price. Now, I don't know if Grab is here, but Grab has become a lot more expensive compared to before. And that now begs the question again, right? Do we really need food delivered to us for that 10, 15 ringgit delivery fee? Are we willing to pay? And guess what? This reality, if all of us decide that no, it's not worth it, there goes that service. And that's the reality of gaps, problems, and opportunities.
For me, let's look at Malaysia. I think standing at the national levels, right? Income. I think much has been said about the stagnant income for employee. But today I won't talk much about it. I will talk about the shrinking P&L profitability of SMEs and also even the largest corporates and GLCs in Malaysia. I think you are seeing a secular decline in their P&L. So it's quite a big problems for the country moving forwards. I think Malaysia gotta find ways to break out of that, coming out with more innovative solutions, help the big enterprises, corporates, SMEs to raise their income, perhaps by exporting more goods, not primitive goods, but value-added goods and services, not too far away, not to US or Europe, but starting off with selling to their ASEAN neighbors. right? And use this as one step to raise the corporate earnings and also the SMEs. And from there, it triggers into increasing the incomes of the employee in Malaysia. Yep.
Awesome, thank you so much. Next question. From your experience of building your startups, what are some potential pitfalls to avoid when starting up for everyone here?
Why everyone so shy? Okay, I guess is the back to the fundamentals lah, right? Okay, if you start, you've got to have capital, whether it's your own money, whether it's borrowed money, whether it's VC money. Now, managing that money and cash flow is important. You're managing ringgit 1 million, sounds like a very big number. And then you proceed to raise your maybe Series A, you raise, let's say, God bless, 20 million ringgit. Now, that's a different challenge all by itself. How do you stretch your runway? That's always a question from VC. How do you manage this? How do you grow it? And when it comes to opportunities to expand. So even if you started your startup already, there's a lot of expansion opportunities. Now, there's also a lot of false opportunities. Everything will look very exciting. Everything will look like this is something I should take advantage of before it's too late, before my competitor take over. So managing financials is fundamental number one. Number two is managing talent. When you start up, maybe you start with friends or maybe with family, right? So everybody has kind of the same mindset, you're all on the same page. We work weekends, we hustle, we do everything together. Nobody really has a kind of job scope, so to speak. Then you grow from your 3-4 people to maybe 20 people. Now that's a different ball game, right? So you got to start having different teams, different departments. You got to start thinking about benefits, about statutory payments, increment, how to help them progress in their career. So from your 20 to 50 to 100, every growth spurt is a challenge in itself. Who is managing this? As a founder, CEO, is that still your role? Or where is your time best spent? So learning to delegate, learning to trust others. I think most founders, I don't know about you, but me, definitely very control freak. Very hard to delegate because I always feel that if I can do it, you can do it. If I can do it better, I do, right? But that's really, don't do that, right? I'm telling you from experience, don't do that. You should learn to delegate, trust other people, and actually hire people that specialize in those roles. So you can free up your time, free up your mind to do bigger things. If those things are holding you down, you are not growing, the team is not growing. So managing people is very tricky. You might hire superstar talent, but also know that when you're running a startup, you are hiring people in their 20s, 30s, full of energy, right? This is also the prime time of their life, meaning they're going to get married, they're going to have kids. So that changes things tremendously. Now, asking them to choose your company over their family, that's a hard ask. How do you convince them, or you don't convince them, or you let them go, right? So especially your early employees, this is something I face personally is, you feel like your family is very hard to let them go. They also don't want to go, but the reality is they have to choose. So how do you then continue moving forward and find some different talent that help you in the next stage of growth? So your first 100 employee, so this is one of the employers that I had told me, the first 100 employees won't be there when you ring the bell. So when you IPO, your first 100 employees probably won't be there. Not everybody has the Alibaba story, okay? But reality is that learning to let go, managing people, and managing your finances.
Somehow, whatever that Yienyee shared, I had a lot of flashbacks as she was talking, this employee, that employee, and what happened, and all of that. And it's true, but leveraging on that note even further, I think it's also very important as you start out to manage your partners, meaning the people that will be coming on board as co-founders. Most startups fail sometimes. It's not just about market validation and not just even the cash flow. A lot of times the startup fails because of partnership disputes, because of the mismatch of expectations. And it's very interesting because usually in the early days of a startup, right, both founders could be very excited. You think your vision is aligned, you think you know what each other is doing, you think you know each other as a person. But as the company grows, like what Yienyee shared, right, to 20 people, 50 people, 100 people, as the amount of money grows, the revenue that you make as well, that could change perspective and expectations. I'm speaking from experience as well. There was one startup that I was running, and we were doing pretty okay, right? And one day, my co-founder just came up and told me that, hey, Jen, I don't want to do this anymore. Without any reason, right? So I said, hey, so-and-so, why don't you want to do this? We are doing pretty okay, right? Sales are right. We are getting paid. Finally, we are getting somewhere. Why don't you want to do this? Say, no, all this while, I took this as a part-time stint. I always wanted to find a full-time job. That was his explanation. To me, it's like, this could be a full-time job, bro. Why is it this? I couldn't understand. But that gave me a realization, right, that it's very important from onset for us to already have these tough conversations with our co-founders, to literally ask them, right, okay, now we are going to do this. What are you expecting of the company when we do well and when we don't do well? How about yourself? Do you see yourself doing this 3 years, 5 years down the line? What if we are only paid fresh grad salary range for the next 5 years? What will happen to you? I think it's quite common in the Asian context that we shy away from talking about monetary upfront, and that's very dangerous. Because when you make money, then that's where sometimes dispute could happen. To say, oh, you didn't do so much, you were silent all this while, now got money, you want to split 50-50? No, I need to take 70%, maximum you take 30%. All these disputes could cost the company, and therefore try to sort this out earlier in terms of expectations.
A pitfall. I mean, obviously, there's quite a lot of young entrepreneurs in the audience, I assume. And I think one pitfall that I see from many young people, young entrepreneurs, and I speak from experience myself. I started up Curlec when I was 26. I was very, 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 very fresh at the time. And I think one pitfall is getting too emotional and emotionally binded, to the company. And I think going through this whole process, what is it now, 6, 7 years, one of the realizations is that it's never linear. It's up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. And, I think in the earlier days was always, you get really, really affected by the lows and really, really affected by the highs, And I think, the important thing out of this, and, and then subsequently, your judgment and everything starts to get flawed by it. So I think, one of the things that I think people could do better at is being less emotional about things, because the reality is the startup journey is, like I said, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, and particularly, we are brought up in an education system where if you put a certain amount of effort in, you will typically get a result. If I put enough effort into my exams, I will get an A or B or whatever. Startups don't work like that. It's, you need that, hard work is a prerequisite, but you need to get lucky as well, right? And those things come and go, come and go, come and go, come and go. So yeah, I think being level-headed, through the ups and the downs.
I got two. I think number one, it's the pitfall is going to be overhire, and the second, it's you are fundraising too much and too quickly, right? The first point. We run, say, online payment solutions. I try to remember back in those days, me and my co-founder, two of us, we are handling up to 2,000 merchants at that point of time, and without any single employee. Two of us work across all functions, sales, marketing, engineering, customer service. Because I think the principle is very simple. If I cannot make enough money to pay myself, my co-founder, what on earth, how am I going to pay the next employee I'm going to hire or the second employee I'm going to hire, right? So that's just something that's deep inside me. Second part on fundraising too much too quickly. I think you don't want to get to a point where very early on in your company development, you already lost the chunk of your equity. You know, when you are down with only 5-10% ownership of the company, very on in your startup journey, how would you able to continue your conviction to solve whatever problem that you set out to solve in the first place, right? So yeah, that's the 2 points.
Awesome, thank you so much. So we're moving towards the last general question before we move into the specific question to the floor. And the last question is, what are some key takeaways or words of advice for the audience to prepare in this rapidly changing world if they plan to start a business today?
A very big and general question indeed. But I think one of the advice I will always say is to never lose that spirit of experimentation. I think what makes a startup in the first place is because in the earlier days, there was a lot of room for trial and error. There's a lot of experimentations that's going to be done. And that's where the fun part is, right? But there comes also lie the danger of a growing startup. A lot of startups, the moment they found something, they latch into that, and then they remain the same way for X amount of years. And I think that will not only hamper the growth and the scale of a particular startup, but it will probably also lose that sense of excitement, that purpose that you were sharing about just now as well. So I think if there's anything, try to leave some time for experimentation every now and then. Remember that you are there to solve a very specific problem. The problem is changing. There are more competitors coming. The market is evolving as well. Don't lose sight of why you started this company in the first place.
This is a bit cliche, but I'm sure all of you heard of the big why, right? So similar to what Jen has shared is you need to know why you're doing this. And your why is different for everyone. There's no right or wrong answer. So maybe you're in a bad financial spot, you really want to grow a business so that you can get out of that situation. That's fine. You want to grow a startup so you can exit it and make a big chunk of money and retire early. That's also fine. You want to build a legacy business that extends for 100 years for your grandkids, also okay. There's no wrong answer to that. There's also nothing to kind of compare per se. So you have competitors in the industry, but know that everyone is solving the same problem in a different manner. So they can copy all they want, but the reality is what is the essence of your business, and nobody should be able to shake your big why. That why may change as you continue to grow as a person and as a business, but that's okay. That's personal to you, so don't kind of lose sight of that. I think that's very important because there will be days that are very, very tough, and then you see your peers, like maybe going for a 3-month Europe holiday, having the best wedding and honeymoon of their lives, and you're like struggling because you have employees to pay, cash flow is running out, you can't raise funding in time. And there are even worse situations than that, right? So those times you're going to start doubting yourself. Why am I doing this? Why did I leave my consultant high-paying job to do this? I used to stay 5-star hotel, now I stay budget hotel. So these are all real stories from my founder friends that we've kind of shared over the years. And if you lose sight of that, then you really got to ask yourself, am I ready for this? Or do I still want to continue doing this? It's okay. It's okay to say that, you know what, I did it, I tried it, and I can't do this anymore. Sometimes it's personal health, sometimes it's family obligations, and there's just super a lot of reasons, right? And there's no wrong answer. It's personal to you. People can say whatever they want, but at least you did it, you tried it. No one was there in your shoes. They can comment, they can say like, you took the easy way out. It's okay lah, right? Yeah, I do what I want lah, right? Unless you're funding me, you are doing this for me, I don't think you have a say in this. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think, maybe an extension of what Yienyee said, and maybe a little bit contrarian as well. Just don't do it unless you're willing to give up your mind, your body, your soul, because it's hard, right? It's hard work, and I think the reality is also, it's high risk. You also need everything to fall into place, right? you know, you need your personal life to be in order, your family life, obviously finances, etc., 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 right? You know, for everything to fall into place. So unless you know your why, you know, and unless you're willing to go above and beyond, there's nothing wrong with just saying you don't want to do it, right? Sorry if that's a damner.
I'm very tempted to say just do it, but I think I had to hold myself back from saying it because I think not all of us wanted to start a new business or new entrepreneurship ventures. Are 22 years old, no financial obligation, no parents to take care of, right? Quite a few of us have a job that we need to take care, parents to take care, and possibly have a kid, right? So I think it's quite irresponsible to just say that, ignore all the noises, follow your heart, just do it. But what I would like to add is just plan it out a little bit. Make sure whoever falls under your responsibility are taken care of for the next 6 months, and do it. So plan it out and do it.
Awesome, thank you so much. I'll keep the advice to heart, and I hope everyone here does as well. So we'll be moving towards the specific questions to the panelists here. And let's start with Yienyee. The first question, do you foresee AI being a positive or negative force for e-commerce sellers, especially with the fiery price wars going on in the digital space?
My scope of AI is really just ChatGPT. Okay, I won't say anything else because that itself is a lot. For me, my experience is I use ChatGPT every day. It's actually very fun because you know how when you ask Google something, the results are who has the best SEO. Right? Then you have to crawl through all the videos and all the junk. But ChatGPT gives you a better version of that, in my opinion. But the thing is, the results are only as good as your prompts. The better thing is, there's no stupid questions. ChatGPT doesn't judge you. So if the answer not correct, I ask again. I ask them 1,000,000 times, and I love it because I can ask a question, make my coffee, come back, the answer is done, right? Versus consulting and searching through tons of web pages. Now for e-commerce sellers in particular, I think one of the challenges is writing a very unique hook for their product. Product description, product titles, explaining that, and maybe kind of trying to edit the photos if they don't have a graphic designer. So there are a lot of AI tools for that nowadays. It's very simple. I used to have to use Photoshop to remove background. Now it's upload, done, right? Like less than 5 seconds is done. So it's very easy to bulk process a lot of the tedious tasks needed of e-commerce seller. If you don't have the resource to outsource this, you can actually kind of automate these kind of things. But of course, one thing to keep in mind is definitely continuous learning. It evolves every day. I think ChatGPT has been around for a year-ish, if I'm not wrong. And it has grown to significant amounts, right? So be curious, continue to learn, continue to keep updated to it. If you can't keep up, then you better have a team member that does. For example, for the life of me, I don't understand what TikTok does, how to get to FYP. It's just, I don't understand it, right? So what I did was I hired an intern. I asked the intern to do this, then you explain to me how it works. Fantastic. I continue to learn, but I don't have to do it. Things like that.
Awesome, thank you. So positive or negative, let's keep an open mind and continue with the learning. Next question is, what do you think will be the biggest advantage or disadvantage to consumers when most Malaysian businesses go digital?
For me also, is it?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
When you go digital, you have more competition. For a consumer, fantastic, right? Who give me best price, free shipping, vouchers, coupons, everything. I love it. For the merchant, your bottom line is being impacted. And this is what we continue to kind of advise merchants, right? They are like, oh, what channel should I be on, right? So that I get the most sales, the most margins. The answer is there's no one perfect channel. What is important is similar to the advice given to startup founders or potential founders is, what is your unique selling point? What are you offering to the market that your competitor is not giving? Maybe your customer service is better. Maybe your packaging is better. Maybe, I don't know, you give them warranty or something, right? It has to be something. This kind of race to the bottom price war is not sustainable. If you just want to capture the market and make a big story, it's like, oh, I sold out 4,000 units in 5 seconds. Fantastic, right? But do you make money on that or not? I think that's the real question we should be asking. And ultimately, for brand owners, is build this relationship with your customers. Getting their money in your bank is great. Knowing what their problem is and getting repeat purchases, that should be your goal.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Yienyee. So we'll be moving on to the next question to Jayson and Zach. And the first question is, you've entered a fairly competitive space with PayX or Curlec. How does PayX or Curlec position itself differently from the rest of the fintech companies, and what's your game plan to win?
Do you want to take it? Or do you want to go first?
So I think if you've observed what had happened in the past months, right? Actually, not past months, past years. Payment has passed becoming a utility, so not much different than electricity, water in the future. I think some of you guys may remember. I think there was an announcement by the bank to charge the merchant, I think some 0.25% on the Do Now QR, and there was an absolute uproar in both the banking sector and also the political sphere, right? So when you have your product is turning into a utility, depressing margin, the only thing you can aim for is scale, right? So payment, ultimately, we are in the consumption business. We are powering private consumption, business consumption. And where can you get more and more consumption? It's the populations. So you need to get to a country with huge populations. That's what we have done. I think we are now in 6 key ASEAN countries. All these countries are exceeding 50 million or 100 million kind of populations. So we use scale to take care of the depressing, eroding margins, right?
Yeah, I mean, payments is a commoditized business, and it really is a race to the bottom type business. And in some cases, it's really bottomed out, and it's zero. Think about funds transfers, previously in Malaysia, you'd be able to send money to a friend, and you had to pay, whatever, 1 ringgit, 50 cents, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now that's free, right? Think about when you had to go to a store. Previously, a merchant would get charged when you scan a QR, now it's free. And, like Jayson and myself, who both sit in the payment gateway space, those fees are coming down, right? So the existential question that we have, you have, and all other payment companies have is, how do you make money out of something that's ultimately free? And really for us, when we look at the Curlec story, the Razorpay story, what we've managed to do is we only view payments as one piece of the jigsaw for a business, right? And if you think, when a merchant is transacting, there's many other things that go on pre and post transaction. Okay, we started off, on subscription payments, various things. How do I set up subscription plans? How do I invoice customers? How do I reconcile this? How do I send out payment links, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, that typically a lot of payment companies don't solve. So for us, it was going very deep in that. I give you more of the story is. The Razorpay story in India. So there's this thing in India called UPI. UPI is the world's largest real-time payments network. And in order to go cashless, the India government basically just said, hey, look, we'll make this free. So because of that, UPI adoption, skyrocketed. And it's gone to sort of 70, 80% in the past 6, 7, 8 years. So one thing we had to focus on is how do we make money out of that? And it's building a lot of products that sit on top of payments. And if you think about a payment ecosystem, right? We're merchant facing, so how do we provide a lot of value to our merchants? But then we obviously, our merchants serve consumers. How do we build value for the consumers with that? So for example, we have this product called One-Click Checkout, where you can go transact with a Razorpay merchant, save your card details, your address details, on one particular merchant, and then any other merchant that we have, you can subsequently do so in a one-click experience, without having to re-enter that whole thing. So that's on the consumer side. But then also, going backwards, integrating into stuff like, typically we partner with banks, and how do we make banks' lives easier to process payments, both in the acquiring, issuing side, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's really having to go more than just transacting a payment and going very, very, very deep either side into the merchant, consumer, or sort of banking side as well.
Thank you, Zach and Jayson. So next question is an interesting one for the both of you. If you had to start Curlec or PayX all over again, what would you have done differently?
Don't start a payments company. Good question. What would I have done differently? That's tough, you know. I mean, payments is difficult, right, Jayson? Yep. You know, and I think the reality, you know, with payments just generally is, no matter what the market size is, each market is so vastly different, right? So obviously, you know, in the case of Send It, you know, you guys have obviously, you know, started off in Indonesia and moved to Philippines, Thailand, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But the go-to-market to each market is so different. The payment preferences, consumer behaviors, everything are so vastly different. So, you know, I think, you know, if I were to start this again, it would be being very, very focused on strategy in terms of, you know, choosing, you know, typically with payments, it's one of two strategies in effect. It's either going very, very, very deep or very, 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 very wide. And, you know, if you get caught in the middle, then that's where, you know, you typically will burn a lot of money and lose focus, right? So, you know, to start this all over again, be very, very, very focused on a particular use case and then subsequently, you know, move out from there.
Trying to think, right? I think if there's one thing that I'm gonna do a bit differently, it's that you know, payment as a utility only is a realization I have for the last couple quarters, right? But when I first started it out, I never had these realizations, right? So had I had these realizations and understand that scale matter more to a payment company, I would have immediately looked for a regional players to partner with from day one, right? Rather than spending a fair amount of time dealing with local players, you know, local ecosystem enablers. That would have saved us a lot of time, and so that we can focus on focus all our energies on growing ASEAN payments related stuffs. Yeah, so that's my thoughts.
Thank you, Jayson and Zach. So next, let's pass the mic to Jan. And the first question is, with the rapid rise of AI, what do business owners need to keep in mind to stand out?
I think the answer is quite simple to this one. Don't have 100% reliance on AI. And I think this is taking off what Yienyee shared right in the beginning of this session as well. While AI is great, it helps you save time, the speed and all that, as of now, it still cannot predict human emotions and response. And if you have really tried interacting with tools that are AI-driven, sometimes you just wonder, why am I talking to this thing? Can I just speak to somebody? One good example, right? And I have no intention to so-called bring down this company or whatnot. But I was going through TikTok yesterday, and there was somebody complaining about particular service by the name of AirAsia. Right, so if you have bought tickets before and you have tried talking to the chatbot before, I don't know if any one of you would give a 5-star rating to say, great, my case is solved. Most of the time, we are left in a situation where we're like, there has to be a better way of doing this, right? I'm here, I'm frustrated, my flight has changed, I'm trying to get it right, but this person is telling me, can you tell me your ticket reference number? Oh, what is the flight number that you're going on? Click here out of the 5, and there's none of that suits your situation, and then you're clicking back and forth. So what I'm trying to get to you is that, yes, use AI as a tool to help you when it comes to productivity, efficiency. But when it comes to dealing with matters of customer service and customer emotions, especially angry ones, for now, use a hybrid method if possible. Make sure that there's somebody on your team still investing time to monitor these conversations. Make sure that the emotions part of your business is not entirely substituted by automation until maybe later stage when AI is a bit more mature.
Thank you so much, Jen. Last question of the day to Jen. What do you think is the future trend of marketing 5 years from now?
5 years, flying cars, hologram, teleportation. I wish those were the things we dreamt of the year 2020, right? None of this came to happen. But I think what we are seeing that could really happen in the next 5 years is that, number one, just like how we've been talking about, I think the use case for AI would be stretched far more. I think what we are seeing and tasting right now is just the start, where a lot of us are very just familiar with generative AI, right? Which means using AI to generate copywriting, text, images, and all that, which, by the way, you need to stay for the next session because we're diving deeper into AI. But when we talk about the growth of AI, right, I think we see it being applied in a lot more specific industry and use cases. How can AI be used in operational side of things? How can AI be used in decision making? How can you use AI to crunch all these different data and statistics that you're getting from different data sources to help you make quicker and better business decisions? I think right now, if you have the expertise, yes, you can achieve it, but still a little bit more cumbersome. I think in the next 5 years, we see this happening a lot more quicker, a lot more accessible, like how we are able to access ChatGPT.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jayson, Yienyee, Jen, and Zach. Let's give a round of applause to the panelists and the floor.
Thank you, panelists. So I would like to ask if it's okay we open questions to the floor. Okay? All right, anybody has any questions that they would like to ask our panelists for today? All right.
Good afternoon, panelists. I'm Kenny from Travel Malaysia. So it's a P2P car sharing industry. So since 5 founders and CEO, right, I would like to throw one question back to everyone. Is ESG is coming, right? And ESG is already there, I would say. So how is this starting up in a new business would correlate with ESG more instead of when I reach certain stage, only I go ESG? Maybe these questions can go from left to right, yeah.
A wise man once said nothing, so I'll pass it to Zach.
I mean, you can argue that the technology businesses generally are inherently ESG compliant. You know, we're moving away from paper, making things more sustainable, providing jobs. I think the reality is, for the most part, we're probably loss-making businesses up here. So stuff like ESG becomes a little bit of a luxury, right, when you're trying to grow and stuff like that. You know, of course, you know, once you hit a certain point, you know, it's important to look after these things. But I think I'd be lying to you if I said, you know, ESG was top of my agenda right now. I'm just looking to grow the business and, yeah.
Yeah, very similar. I think the only time I use those terms is when I'm fundraising, because there are just fund mandates for that. But the reality is, I think in the past, a lot of companies grow or scale at all costs. And there are certain implications from that. So starting a business today, being aware of ESG, I think, is the first step. Implementing it is a tall order. But being aware, I think that helps maybe in our decision making. At least we are aware, we are conscious of it, and we try our best, because to be honest, who is really implementing this successfully? How do we account for it? We don't know. Of course, it's going to take a lot of effort by everyone to reach there, but I think being aware is the first step.
I think as the mic gets passed, it becomes more challenging to answer because a lot has been said. But I think from a startup perspective, the bare minimum of ESG that we can all think about is not to do harm. I think that's the baseline of ESG anyway, whether it's towards the environment, whether it's to people, to different social communities, right? I think it's all about us being aware of whether the things that we do is contributing back to the community, or is it at the cost of a community. I agree that as we are small, there may not be much we can do, right? We are not like saving the earth or planting 100,000 trees every time somebody buys something. We may not be in the position to do that yet. But at the very least, you are operating from a certain base. It could be that particular locale, that particular industry, the employees that come in, where you source your products. If possible, why not consider to do no harm or less harm? I think as we start off the company having this mindset, as we grow, and right now we are able to consider more sustainable ways of doing this at a bigger scale, then sure, go ahead and pursue that. But at the end of the day, it's not to cause harm.
I think I have a point, right, to Zach. I think we both underestimate the role of our company in creating an ESG impact. I think we did real impact. And let me quantify it in data, right? So we're in the payment gateway business. So our job primarily is to support the cashless transaction agenda by the central bank. And cashless transaction, you're talking about taking out cash and taking out check from Malaysia, paper-based instrument, right? Let me back it up with data. Just last year, we have recorded a drop in CIC, cash in circulations, in Malaysia. First time ever we have recorded a drop in the last 20 years, right? So I think on that front, we are cutting down the use of paper. The second one, I think digital, but just by being digital, right? Now every transaction was recorded, there's audit trail, right? It's surfaced up, and that provides a lot of groundwork for a lot of the governance, practices that I think the country